years. I get strong. I do a Rocky thing, and then I come back and slay it.
How do you get strong? Do you start writing material?
You just start regrouping and going, okay, that didn't work.
Why do you think you didn't give up? Seriously, like most people would have said, "Fuck this." That was the worst thing in the world. Guys were goofing on me during my act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Didn't have a trade.
You didn't have anything else.
This was it.
Yeah.
So, it was never an option for me. I was always going to do it. I didn't know in what capacity, but I had this weird fail-safe part of my brain that went like, okay, it's going to happen another way.
Didn't you write Carol Burnett a letter as a kid, like telling her?
I was 10 years old. I wrote her and said, I do 150 impressions. I want to be a regular on the show like Tim Conway and Harvey Korman. Stuff like that. And I got a letter back from whoever over at the Carol Burnett show who deals with the fan letters saying, thank you, Jim, and we wish you the best of luck. And, we generally hire our talent through the agencies, but we wish you all the best. And
meanwhile, can you imagine?
Carol Burnett.
I'm probably imagining a 10-year-old Jim Carrey probably had some pretty good impressions. It would have been kind of cool to have like a little kid as a regular cast member.
Yeah,
it would
have been brilliant actually, but I would have been out of control. I don't think anybody should make it in their childhood years. It's just psycho time.
Yeah.
So you don't get to form an ego. And the first time I ever went to the Comedy Store, it was the same thing. I went down there. I auditioned the same night. My first time was I think it was 1979. And
how old were you then?
I was 19 years old. And I stayed at the Saharan Motel on Sunset Boulevard, which was like Hooker City. I had never seen anything like it. I thought I had stepped into an episode of Beretta. It was like I got out of the cab, and a girl came up to me and said, "You want a date?" And I thought it was Sadie Hofstad. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Are you kidding? This is great. These chicks are loose.
I got her a corsage.
Hired a limo.
Took her to the prom.
Yeah,
but here's what I don't
I
understand.
was swimming in the pool in the Saharan Motel, and people were cracking the curtains of their windows and staring at me and stuff. It was like, it was like coke parties all night long, and I was up in the daytime. And,
but here's what I don't get. When you're in Canada and you're working clubs and you're like, you're 17 or something, that's one thing. When you come to LA, you're on your own, right? I mean, you moved there. You don't have your family.
No. You're lucky to be alive after a few years, really, honestly. When I think back of all the stuff I got into and stuff, I think to myself, my God, how did you live through all this? And that's what I wanted to capture with the show, because no one's ever done it. No one's ever seen what it's really like. It's not just, guys jumping up on stage. It's who's the funniest guy in the park, who's the king of the parking lot.
Yeah.
And it's a knife fight in the parking lot because somebody stole the joke. It's crazy. It's more Mean Streets than Punchline.
Was there a lot of that? Like when you would go, and I mean, like you'd be in a club as a young comic, but you're working the same club. Sometimes like Robin Williams would come in, or Richard Pryor, or one of these guys.
Unbelievable moments, like to watch these guys working their stuff out, and then there was this crazy, weird, violent aspect to it. The first time I went to the Improv in Hell's Kitchen in New York, and I'm like 18 years old at Hell's Kitchen, and sitting there in the picture window in the bar, looking out at the street, watching some comic get his face kicked in.
For what? For stealing a joke?
I don't know what it was for, but it was I think it was a Westie thing, It was like a gang thing or something. And I was sitting with Uncle Dirty, I remember, and he said, and I jumped up and put my little, Canadian mounted police hat on and said, "We better go help that guy," kind of thing. And he just grabbed me and said, "You don't help people in Hell's Kitchen, man.
Yeah.
And work it out."
Yeah, it seems weird. Why was Robin Williams always being accused of stealing material? Did you find that to be true? I mean,
I think what happened with Robin sometimes is like Robin was, free associating, and so, if somebody said something to him in the parking lot, he would go up on stage and he'd throw out 100 things, and one of them might be that.
Right.
And I don't think it was an intentional, I like that joke, I'm going to take it. He was just free associating, and, you just, when you're up there improvising, you collect everything.
Was Pryor the best comic you saw back in those days? Like, was he the guy you wanted to be?
Well, I knew that Pryor was, the pinnacle of somebody who could think on his feet and would be naked in front of the audience, and make it something incredibly special. But when I saw him, he was going through the kind of coming off drugs and doubting himself of his life, where we'd stand in the parking lot and he'd say, I don't remember 40 years of my life.
Yeah. I mean, when you say you can't...
He'd say to me things like, I'm not sure it was me. Things like that, which shocked the hell out of me as a fan and as somebody who revered him. But then I saw that, that's a moment. That's a moment when somebody's getting straight, that where they have self-doubts and stuff like that. And he went on to come up with great stuff.
I still can't believe how good your act was when you were doing impressions, and then you just threw that all away.
Yeah.
Because you just wanted to...
I went to Vegas, man. I went to Vegas one time, and I saw a bunch of impressionists who were phenomenal. And I just sat there in the audience, and I went, this is not it. I can't end up here. This is not where I want to be, So I went back, and I just quit everything. And I went up for about 6 months. First, I quit for 2 years. And this is my pattern. I quit for 2 years.
Yeah, it's always 2 years. But
it was 2 years. The first time I went up at the Comedy Store, I was going to say that I auditioned the same night as Bill Maher.
Really?
And he had his shit together, and he did a great set, and he got on as a regular. I went up on stage, and the mic fell apart in my hands. And I knew I was screwed right out of the gate, man. I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. And I got off stage, and I literally jogged past Mitzi's table. I didn't look her in the face at all. I went back to Canada for 2 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I didn't even know if she would have put me on as a regular.
When you followed Mar, were you doing impressions back then, or were you starting to do material?
Yeah, the impressionist act.
Yeah. Holy mackerel! You know what? But then you know what's weird? You think about it. All those impression skills got you on TV because of all those characters you invented.
Exactly. And so Damon and Keenan saw me doing stand-up and struggling to come up with an act, as well as Judd Apatow was a big fan of mine back then, and he used to open for me. So, they saw me experimenting, and the comics knew what it was. Even if the audience wasn't getting it, the comics knew what I was risking. And so I was a big kind of hero with them. And so I was developing stuff.
Right. You mean they admired the fact that
6 months and didn't repeat a word I said the night before?
You mean they admired the fact that you threw out your whole act as an impressionist and basically were brave enough to go try to be?
I remember Mitzi saying to me at one point, because it didn't look good at one point. It looked like I wasn't going to actually come up with something, and she was like, "What are you doing? You're the king of impressions."
People give you bad advice.
And I said, hey, they got mad at me. They hated when Bob Dylan went electric, man. You gotta stretch, So I finally just one day popped up in my bed. It was like after, I don't know, years of playing around and experimenting. And I finally literally woke up in the middle of the night, because I used to go to bed thinking, what do they need? What do they need? What do they need? What do they need? And I woke up in the middle of the night and shut up in bed and thought, they need to be free from concern. And it was like a clarifying moment. And that night, I went up on stage at the Comedy Store, and the first thing I did was, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, how are you today? All righty then, like that, and without really caring how they were feeling, And I began to play the guy who was free from concern. That was a character I played,
Right.
Doing that, I freed them from concern.
You think the audience was too nervous for you, in other words? It was too much pressure in all that.
Yeah. So, not to care was a relief to the audience,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been an incredible process.
And what an incredible time to be a stand-up comic, because in the 70s, which is what the TV show's about, and I assume you put a lot of your own experiences in there.
Oh yeah, I dump all the time. I go into the writer's room and just go, here's what's bubbled up, because the wonderful thing about this show is it keeps reminding me, when I came to LA and I lived in a closet.
Yeah, what do you mean you lived in a closet? How do you live in a fucking closet?
I ran into somebody
was advertising it as a room because he needed a roommate.
Yeah.
And then he opened up the closet door. And he said, "This is your room?"
He said, "Here it is."
How do you sleep in the closet?
Well, I just, there was all the clothing on one side and then on the other side, and that was it. I was pretty happy in there.
Who was this guy? Was he another comic?
It was a friend of mine.
Yeah.
He became a very good friend of mine, Phil Roy. And it was a blast living in that house. And the first morning I got up for breakfast, and there was a girl with no pants on cooking bacon.
Nice.
And I went, all right.
So it's a closet.
Brother.
Yeah, who cares? This is fun.
Yeah.
And how did you make money for those years when you were like, were you just getting a
Well, you made like $25 a set, going up at the comedy club. So I used to do the Improv and the Comedy Store, and then the Laugh Factory came along. So that was like, I could make $75 a night,
When you look back on all that,
and I would do $75 a night, and then I'd drive up to Mulholland Drive like a complete psychopath, and pull over on the side of Mulholland Drive in front of all the lights of over Lancashire in the valley, and dream up my future as if it already was. So I'm a big affirmation guy.
Yeah, you believed in yourself.
I don't know ultimately if I was affirming something and manifesting it, or I actually was psychically knew what was happening in the future, what was going to happen.
Who the fuck knows, I mean, I never believed in myself.
It doesn't hurt though. Yeah, but look how terribly you've done.
Do you miss those days, like when you reflect on your entire life and you've had a lot of success, tremendous fame, tremendous fortune? Were the happiest times coming up in those comedy clubs and sort of not having that much pressure on you because you weren't that famous at that point? Was that your happiest time in life?
No. I think I'm happy now. Actually, I'm ridiculously happy.
Do you ever go to your house?
I've been through some shit, but I'm super cool. I mean, I'm kind of. I hate to say this because it sounds really goofy and maudlin, but I'm kind of in heaven at the moment. I really have found kind of a place that is outside of the mental noise, and that's why the meditation is great. And, just kind of the way I look at things.
Do you still give a shit about show business? I mean, okay, you're executive producing this show, and
yeah, no, this is a great thing for me because not only is it a really cool feeling to sit back and to jump in creatively and to have this thing kind of come from my mind, but to hand it off to somebody like Michael Aguilar and Dave Labat, who've really done an amazing job of like making it a high quality show that's really well written and thoughtful, and watching all these young actors jumping off.
Well, let me understand something.
So cool.
You came up with this idea for I'm Dying Up Here, right? You're the executive producer. So do you write the show? Do you go into the writer's room?
No, I don't write it. I go in and I download ideas, and I I put them in the place. I put them in the time and the place, and basically they've done an incredible job of bringing it to life.
Is Showtime the
I
first?
went around for about 10 years trying to develop and pitching this thing to people as a film, as a series, whatever.
And they wouldn't do it.
Well, they it just didn't come to fruition. But then when I got with Michael Aguilar, he went, I think I know how we could do this, and he really did an amazing job. So.
And Showtime bought it from you, and
yeah, and they've been cool and supportive too. Actually, their notes have actually been helpful. It hasn't been like, oh, here they come.
Right. In other words, they actually had some good ideas when
Oh no, definitely they have. And
when you were doing those,
it's a nice thing. I feel honored, kind of, to be the one to bring this, this space and time to people's consciousness.
Do you ever walk through your house and occasionally say, hey, I'm going to go sleep in the closet just to remind myself of those days?
Yeah, right. But the closet's as big as my bedroom.
Right.
It's not a stretch.
Yeah, I can imagine what that closet is.
No, it's a good closet.
Were you doing tons?
That's one of the keys also to happiness is just get enough stuff.
Right.
Get enough stuff. Make sure that you're financially squared away. You know, what do I need? It's like once you get squared away to a certain point, you know, you lose any need for like that hopes and dreams.
Yeah, in other words, you
Once you
don't.
get those hopes and dreams out of the way, you know, what do I need? A double-decker tennis court? I don't use the one I got.
Right. So, in other words, the life that you have now is free of pressure. In other words, you'll do a movie.
Not free of pressure, but I have like ways of kind of absorbing and kind of I don't know, processing pressure. That's I get it's a lot quicker to peace, you know, than it used to be.
Do you want it? Do you ever?
I kind of wrap it all up and understand it, and then I take the my out of the equation. You know, like if you say like woman, money, house, you know, it's just stuff, and it's just abstract. If you go my woman, my money, my house, it's suddenly important, and you get really riled up about it.
So, in other words, I think what you're saying is, like, you could do a movie, not do a movie. You know, it's kind of
I want to
like.
do things that are fun, man. I want beautiful, you know, I'll wait for beautiful stuff to find me. I haven't done a lot of movies lately because, you know, I just go that way. I'm the 2-year guy. I go away for a while and I hack one limb off to develop the other limb, let the other ones grow, and then I slowly let that one grow back. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm excited again, kind of wanting to get back into the fray and do some films, you know.
Was there? Oh yeah, you doing some films, or are you just thinking about it?
I'm looking at some stuff, lining it up, so we'll see.
Would you ever do a TV show? Like, would you ever be?
I'll never say never, but you know, it's not I'm pointed toward, but I wouldn't say never. I like the idea of these, you know, on these.
Streaming.
I like the idea of these like mini-series type of, you know, 6 shows.
The longer form, yeah.
Yeah, because they're doing amazing stuff on TV. I mean, there's incredible shows, unbelievable like talent is coming out of TV. Incredible
Yeah, it is.
actors.
Yeah, some great writing.
Incredible.
Really good stuff, yeah.
Yeah, you could really play with a character, and you know.
In weird ways, you can get away with so much more on television. I don't know why that is, but you can because you call it cable, or you know, it's.
I'm working on a project. I'm probably going to tap you for Fox News the musical.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on Broadway. You're going to play Roger Ailes.
Oh, please let me play Roger.
You're going to be Roger Ailes, and it's going to be very heavy. But I think
So
you
I'm
can
going
do it.
to have to eat some gluten and dairy.
Yeah, no, we're going to definitely have to fatten you up a bit.
Would you fatten up for the part?
You'll
Yeah.
and shave your head.
Isn't it funny though? Like a few years ago, I got in a lot of flap from Fox News for calling them a media colostomy bag, and
Yeah, remember
it was true.
I remember they turned on you, man. They were just fucking hammering
after
you.
me, and my representatives were like, "You can't talk about Fox News; they're just too powerful." I'm going,
You're
"No,
going to lose everything.
all." You know.
Well,
It's a crazy network of crazy, insane scumbags out there. It's unbelievable what's happening these days.
it is unbelievable what's happening.
I mean, I don't know when this is going to air, but as we're taping, it's like Jeff Sessions is going to testify today.
Yeah.
I mean, just what happened to people's instincts about character, man? You know, it's just crazy. People ignoring their instincts about character. You look at this guy, you turn the sound off. All you need to do is turn the sound off and replace his voice with I like eating spiders. You know? And you've got him in a nutshell.
Well, how is it these guys forget that they met with Russians? That's what I don't get. Like, how
They're
come?
not forgetting. They're just like, they're ignoring. It's like this crazy, you know, here's the thing. The bottom line is, you know, speaking hypothetically, of course, if for some reason we voted a steaming pile of dog shit to be the president of the United States, you know, and in turn he appointed to the most important positions in government and as his spokespeople flies that love dog shit and glorified dog shit. It's not going to eventually magically turn into a chocolate bar, even if half the country and the Republican Party want to close their eyes and plug their nose and keep eating it.
Were you surprised surprised that Kathy Griffin got so much blowback on that Trump head picture?
Well, I mean, it was in pretty poor taste,
Right.
but I didn't, it didn't make me laugh. It was definitely out of fury, but the fury starts in the White House. That animosity started from within his campaign and his world, and he's now getting the reflection back. So let's just talk about where it started. And the fact is, if you look at the Trump care, an oxymoron, and the budget, which is absolute vampirism. It's like this, people are actually going to die from that. It's not just holding up a bloody head, a fake head, a prop. These are people who are going to lose everything.
In other words, the picture is not the thing. It's the
problem is
Nobody died from the picture. Yeah.
It's not the joke. It's the source of the joke. It's the subject of the joke that's the problem.
Hey, Jim, are you an American citizen? Did you ever actually become one?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, man.
I mean, you were born in Canada. I didn't know if you ever actually went and took the test and did that.
No, I did the whole thing, man. I put the right hand up and the whole deal.
Look at you.
I know.
Are you sorry you did it now?
Damn it.
How'd you do on your
I
citizenship
could
test?
sing the national anthem.
Did you do well on the citizenship test? I mean,
I aced it, man.
You were a high scorer.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was a conscientious objector though, so that was a bit of a problem.
Hey,
Куда будет запах?
Did you audition for the Matthew Broderick part in
Це був
Ferris Bueller's
риторичний
Day Off?
вопрос.
No,
So that's bullshit.
no.
Were you ever mentioned originally as the guy in Back to School that Sam Kinison eventually played?
No.
No?
No.
Where do I get this shit from?
But it's just shitland out there.
Yeah.
It's bogus land. This is the problem, that the frickin' web is so filled with crap that that the president can actually say, call journalists liars, and really there's nothing. No, it's kind of indefensible. It's like you can't fight it because there is so much crap out there.
Did you turn down the Howard Hughes role in The Aviator, which went to Leonardo DiCaprio?
No. But I was working on a Howard Hughes piece before I think I'm the reason they kicked that into production, because me and Chris Nolan were working on a Howard Hughes piece.
That was a good story.
I had crazy Howard Hughes together too. It would have been amazing.
I could see you as Howard Hughes, all the OCD stuff and all that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it would have been great, and it was a great script. But
Weren't you going to play Red Fox's son in Sanford and Son?
that's right.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was. Yeah.
Well, the world of stand-up comedy is crazy. I mean, we didn't even get into the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, were you doing a ton of drugs when you were in the in the 70s, sort of
I
coming?
experimented. It was never a big thing for me. I went in and out. But pot was kind of a compulsive thing for me. I tended to go away and just me and my apple bong.
Would you go on stage high? Never.
I only went up maybe twice after smoking a joint, and I slaughtered the house. I
Really?
annihilated everybody. At one point, Kinison was at the back of the room, and he was just for fun heckling me and stuff, and I was killing him. I was killing everybody, and I walked off stage, and they said, "Wow, what the hell was that?" And I said, "I'm high."
Isn't that dangerous in a way? That
I actually called my dad after that and said, because I had that kind of, confusing moment of should I or shouldn't I? And I called my dad, who was a jazz musician.
Right.
I said, "Dad, you must have dealt with, other musicians that were getting high to play and stuff like that." And he said, I did, but, I always figured if I made it that way, I wouldn't be able to own it.
So then in other words, you resisted the temptation to get high on stage more.
Yeah. And, but there was so much insanity that went on, man. It's unbelievable. Some nights, I bombed so badly that I would crawl into the piano and close the piano on myself for the next 4 acts.
It's hard for me to
People
imagine
would
you
know that I
bombing.
was in the piano.
It's hard for me to imagine you bombing. You know what I mean?
Well,
Knowing
experiment, you gotta.
you don't do stand-up anymore, though. You wouldn't.
The first few rockets don't make it off the pad. You know what I mean?
Would you ever do stand-up again? Like, would you try it?
Yeah, I probably would at some point. I don't know. I don't really feel like doing it right now. I'm painting.
Yeah, I know. But I'm
painting
saying.
and just trying to zombie my way through my regular job.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, talk to Jerry Seinfeld, he still loves doing stand-up. Like, he would never give it up. It's in his blood. It's like he's just got to go do it. But, like...
No, and he's phenomenal, too. He's just an incredible technician.
Kinnison was the best, wasn't he?
Kinnison was incredible.
Like, Seinfeld's great at it. Louis C.K. now great at it. You know,
Sam was like, you know, he was Charlie Parker.
Did you hang with him?
Oh yeah, we were good friends. And, you know, we drove back to Tulsa together. I don't know. Sam and I were gonna go on the road and do tent shows before I became famous and before he got known. Because I was actually one of the mainstays of the Comedy Store before he ever made it. You know, so.
But wasn't it hard to hang with him?
He came up to me one night and he said, and I didn't know him. He said, you know, he was a big fan, and I was getting standing ovations every night, and I had a real crowd-pleasing act. And he said, "Hey, can you stick around? I don't go on till 2 in the morning. Can you stick around and watch my set?" I said, "Sure, man." And so I stuck around. I watched him do his thing, and I literally was dumbfounded.
Right.
The wall at the back of the club, and just tears pouring down my face, out of control, laughing like a hysterical lunatic. And he came off stage, and I just said, "You're it, man.
Yeah.
You're it." You know?
Wasn't he hard to hang with, though? Like I got really friendly with Sam, you know, and I actually, like, hung out with him and stuff, much like you did. But it was so intense, and, you know, especially when it got into the drug use and all that, that it was hard. There were not many real moments.
Well, the tough thing for Sam too was that, you know, he chose a character that had to maintain that beast status, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to be careful what kind of avatar you create for yourself, you know.
He couldn't turn it off. I remember one time I invited him to my house. I said, "Why don't you just come over and have like a regular dinner?" He was playing like Westbury Music Fair, and you know, and I just said, and he sat down. It was like he was on fire. Like the guy hadn't had
He wasn't hungry.
No, he literally
Stick to the pie.
he was not used to having a normal night where you just sit and have dinner.
Well, first of all, he showed up with 2 girlfriends.
Well, of course.
Right.
Of course. Well, you know, that was the thing about Sam. He was just this brilliant genius, but it somewhere inside him, he was so lonely that he couldn't really go to bed or he couldn't go to sleep without being super high and being surrounded by 20 people. You know, I mean, so it was sad in that way. And there was a certain point where I kind of backed up away from him because I just felt like we were on different, you know, pages.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun together, man. And literally, he was going to teach me how to preach, and he was going to call me Lightning Boy. And we were going to go out in the tent circuit and do the healing thing and stuff. And
just to see how much money you could raise.
Just for fun, just to do it, just as a character, you know. But I went back to his house in Tulsa, and I remember hanging out in the living room when him and brother Marnie were in the garage doing a radio show because no one knew he was a comic yet, so he was back to being Brother Kinnison,
right,
and doing the evangelical thing, and it was just incredible to watch. I mean, everybody in their family was a minister. It was like the dog was a minister.
I know.
It was like they had a hamster that was a minister. It was unbelievable.
And yet the irony is that, like, here he had his problems with drugs and everything, and then he gets hit by a drunk driver.
Yeah.
And dies.
Well, we almost crashed in the car on the way to Tulsa because I was at the wheel and I fell asleep.
Oh dear.
I fell asleep, and you know, we did that like three tires on the gravel thing. You know, or you just have to pull it back onto the road. But I was kind of used to doing that after factory work. You know, I literally used to work in a factory in Canada and drive 50 miles back home every night, and every single night of my life, I fell asleep and went off the road.
Oh my God, it's a miracle
every
you're
single night
alive.
of my life. Yeah.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, but it's a good thing they put that gravel on the side. And it's time to get back on the road, you know?
Yeah.
Open the window and blast the radio. Yeah, but, you know, it was beautiful hanging out with guys like that, man. It was an incredible...
I know.
Sam became what he became because he saw the inequities of where he came from, you know?
Yeah.
You know, he started trying to preach to people in the Pentecostal spiritual setting that they were their own Christ, you know,
Right.
that they were their own Christ consciousness. And
Were you following this whole Bill Cosby? Were you like a Bill Cosby guy? Did you really like love him?
I had all the albums and stuff growing up for sure. Yeah.
It's pretty weird now seeing that trial going on, huh?
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to think after, you know, being the subject of, you know, opportunistic lawyers, you know, exploitation. Anything can happen in this world. So I don't know what to think about all that. It certainly seems damning, but, you know, who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows, man? Who knows?
It's up to the jury
he
now.
definitely came up in the Playboy Mansion, kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, where there was a lot of drugs and maybe the line was blurred in some way. I just have never, myself, have never been turned on by the idea of humping an inert body.
You don't like that?
Not really.
You were never into necrophilia?
Not into necrophilia.
No. Yeah, me neither. I always
Thank
need
goodness you didn't get that one.
some kind of consent.
I have a lot of weirdness, but not that's not part of it.
Hey, do you watch the TV show Gotham at all? I was wondering your take. I think this guy who plays the Riddler, since you played the Riddler,
Yeah.
I think this kid, his name's Corey Michael Smith. I think he's doing a good job. What do you
I
think?
think he's good. I don't watch it all the time. I don't watch a lot of television, but I think he's good. I think he's good. I think that, you know, some good stuff on the show. But you know, yeah, they talked about me being on the show and stuff, and I said, in your dreams.
Yeah, fuck you. Well, listen.
That's all good stuff, but yeah.
Jim Carrey. He says, look, man, I'm executive producing a show called I'm Dying Up Here, and you really should watch it just based on who I am and the kinds of comedy I've given you. Certainly there's enough credibility there for you to check it the fuck out, right?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
It's an incredible cesspool of wonderfulness.
That's right. I'm Dying Up Here.
It's a great world, the whole comedy club world, man. I just want people to see it because it was an odyssey, and really, I mean, it's just, but within it, you know, I mean, so many diamonds came out of that darkness, you know.
Yeah.
There, it's just beautiful, beautiful. I mean, it's everybody you know, everybody on television. It's like incredible, you know, the network of people that came out of that place. Just magical stuff. And the time itself was magical, you know.
You don't go to clubs anymore, do you?
You know, the funny thing was when I started looking at, you know, doing this show, I did go down to the Comedy Store. I hadn't been there in about 14 years. And I walked in, and there was so much love, man, coming toward me. It was just incredible. And the comics, one after another, were killing me, just slaying me. And I was able to, like, that night alone, we got 3 different people for the show. Guys that are, you know, like Eric Griffin, who are doing amazing jobs as actors, you know, and Andrew Santino, who's just slaying it as a dramatic actor, you know. So
yeah, I mean, you don't think about
it. Older guys like Dom Herrera, you know, who've been around forever. But if you see him, he slaughters an audience.
So you put him in the show?
Yeah, I put him in the show. You know, it's beautiful. Rick Overton's in the show. He's playing the booker for the Tonight Show, and he's doing an amazing job.
It's really interesting.
Fun for me to watch, man. It's a blast to be part of.
I was just thinking about it. Like, it's kind of interesting when you think about it. Like, there are guys who get on TV and in acting and everything who start as stand-ups, and then you have guys who are actors who like Belushi. Did you ever hang out with Belushi or those guys?
I never got to hang out with Belushi. You know, it was funny because I ran into Judy Belushi, and you know, one time she said, "Oh, John loved you," like that, and I started, like, I walked away going, "Oh my God, John loved me. John loved me.
Right.
That's incredible, man. I'm so happy." And then I did the math, and I went back to her and I said, I don't think he could have loved me. He wasn't known by anybody.
Well, he would have loved
And
you.
she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
Yeah,
but
someone
I know
else.
he would have loved you."
Yeah, of course he would have. I still think it's amazing you didn't end up on Saturday Night Live. That is so weird to me.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. But I had a weird thing happen to me on the way into the audition, and I just knew it wasn't going to happen.
I can't believe that. How do you know it's not going to
I
happen?
walked out of my car, and some guy was trying to throw himself off the roof of NBC. Literally, I walked out of my car, and I heard, "Don't do it, don't jump." And somebody was, you know, yelling at a guy who was standing on the roof, trying to get the guts up to jump off the roof.
I was was probably me. I was working back then.
Yeah, yeah.
But in all seriousness, I mean, you took that as a sign?
Yeah, immediately. That's all I could think about through the whole audition. It was like, is the guy dead or not?
And that fucked you up.
It did, man.
What are you doing the rest of the day? Like after we hang up the phone, what's the Jim Carrey
Well, it's
day?
pretty early.
I'm gonna go to my church, to my Catholic church, and say confession to Father Shenanigans.
No, what are you gonna do?
No, I don't know. I'll be creative. Actually, what the hell do I have to do, Linda? Yeah. Oh, hey, you know what?
What?
Oh, today's the day I get to go and have lunch with Carl Reiner, man.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
It's huge.
Do you know him?
Huge. But you see, I never know what I'm doing from one day to the next. I'm the guy that just goes, point me.
Well, what do you mean?
Albuquerque.
Carl Reiner contacted you and said, "Hey, let's go to lunch."
No, I went to their movie the other night. Their premiere of the movie. If what is it? If I read the obit, I'm not in it. Have breakfast. It's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, paraphrasing. But it was a really sweet movie about guys that are still hoofing it after 90.
Right.
And
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that
with
this
Mel
weekend. It's
Brooks,
good.
and I was sitting beside Dick Van Dyke, who's like my hero growing up, and we're rapping through the whole movie, and so there are so many things about what I do and being a part of this that is just.
But how do you end up going to lunch with the guy? Like he said to you, "Let's just go."
No, I had lunch with George Shapiro because I hadn't seen him in years since I did Andy Kaufman,
Right.
and George was Andy's manager, so I called up.